Hey friends, today I'm gonna tell you how I went from literally no 3D skills whatsoever to being a director of 3D for TikTok. All right, before we jump into this video all the way, I do want to preface two things really quick. Number one, I wanted you to know that this is the most nervous I've ever been making a video. I think this is the biggest video I've ever made. And the reason I'm so nervous is because it's a new form of vulnerability that I'm not used to. Another quick clarification is that I've decided to make this into a hybrid video, like a GreyscaleGorilla Plus review, as well as telling my journey. And the reason for that, simply put, is that it's just part of the story. And you're probably immediately wondering, how much is this guy getting paid to say this stuff? And the answer is zero. It is not a sponsored video. They have no idea I'm making this video right now. Let me take you back to 2014. I saw Blender, something created in Blender, for the first time in 2014, and it totally knocked me off my feet. I was just swooned, completely swooned by it, and knew that that's what I wanted to do with my life, which is crazy. It sounds like a love story. It kind of is. I spent the next 4 years saving up money because I was a newlywed, freelance graphic design, I was not getting much profit on that at all. I was making ends meet, saving up, and in 2018, end of 2018, I finally bought Cinema 4D and a computer that could handle Cinema 4D. So my journey with 3D truly began in December of 2018. And then I spent the next year learning Cinema 4D on the side. My main gig was still graphic design and a little bit of 2D animation as well. That was supporting me and giving me little pockets of, I would try to quit work at 3 p.m. and try to work on Cinema 4D for the next 2 or 3 hours until I had to quit. And that's essentially how it worked. And then by the end of 2019, I had a couple of really small projects in Cinema 4D. Okay, moving on to 2020. The most interesting year for our entire planet with COVID, but also the most pivotal year of my career. Starting out, I ended up getting GreyscaleGorilla in February. I had this realization that 3D needs to become a bigger part of my career. It's time. And I didn't know exactly how to do that. GreyscaleGorilla was just coming out. It was like, boom, this makes sense. Just commit and go in and really hope that it provides some serious knowledge for you. So I did that. In March of 2020, I lost all of my work, as did most of the world. It just seems like all the budgets and teams and everything just slowed way, way, way down. So I found myself with a lot of extra time. And what I did with that time is just the coolest thing. I'm so proud of how things unfolded. It was an absolute Hail Mary, but I decided to create a 3D ad for some brand, whether I was gonna get paid to do it or not. I just needed to know that I was capable of producing it. So I spent almost all of March collecting a spreadsheet of different industries and different brands within those industries to try to figure out who I was gonna do this for. It became very apparent as I was writing all this out that the cookware industry is very underserved for 3D. And within that industry, there are a lot of really cool new brands moving into the space. So I ended up talking my friend Aaron, who I'd met at a meetup, a 3D meetup, into creating this 3D ad for a company called Our Place. And we spent the next 2 months, no pay, no anything, just creating a full CG spot for Our Place. And we just cold turkey sent it to them. I created a whole video about this process. You can go back and check it out if you want. Little did we know that not only would we get a response from Our Place, they would end up buying the ad from us. And and getting your work put out into the world by a brand as cool as our place leads to nothing but good things. Next thing we know, we're just getting all this interest from other brands within the cookware space. We started working for a brand called Caraway. Then we started working for a true legacy brand, Lodge Cast Iron, like been around for over 100 years. It was just the most unbelievable thing. And it was so incredible that by the end of September that year, I went from having no work to having too much work. It was the most exhilarating feeling. Honestly, I want to create a course about this whole pitching process because it's absolutely incredible how much amazing work I get from doing these sort of pitches now. And it no longer feels like a risk and blah, blah, blah. Maybe one day I'll actually create a course where I'll share a lot more of those details. Okay, so get this. Aaron and I are just cranking out work for all these amazing brands. Things are going incredibly well. And then in December, I get an email that I mean, quite literally, I did physically fall out of my chair and just lay on the ground for a little bit when I opened this email. I got an email from a creative director at Man vs. Machine. And he said he saw the work that I had done for Caraway and wanted to know if I would be interested in working with their team. Pause. I don't even need to preface this, really, because everyone in the 3D space knows who Man vs. Machine is, and they know just how much of a legacy studio they are. But for me, it was the tippity top from day one. Like the dream, the absolute, I actually didn't even let myself dream it because I didn't think it was possible. And I'm not exaggerating here. They work for Squarespace, Nike, Apple, all of the best, and now a creative director's reaching out to me. I just couldn't even handle it. So guess what? In March of 2021, I start working for Man vs. Machine. I got to do architectural design for a Logitech ad. It's so cool. But here's where I want to be extra specific to be honest. The opportunity came and went, and I don't know that I'll get hired by them again. I was just kind of hoping that I would be better than I expected myself to be. Like I would hit a moment in there that's just like, I didn't know I was capable of this, but I didn't have that. And I can tell you the exact reason. I dealt with imposter syndrome horribly bad. Like worse than I've ever done it. I got in there and I was genuinely starstruck by average people. These people are insanely talented, but they're the nicest people on the planet. They were so much fun to work with day to day, and I still couldn't quite get out of my shell. There were a couple other factors that played into my mental state while I was there, one of which was having a baby 3 weeks beforehand. I way underestimated what toll that was gonna take on my brain. And the other thing was that I was in the middle of building a studio. I lost my office to my daughter who just was born, and I was building a studio and it wasn't done, so then I ended up getting a co-working space and life just felt very, very chaotic. It was weird. I left that opportunity so grateful and just blown away by the talent and the kindness of those people, but also just questioning my abilities, feeling really down on myself. Even though they were so uplifting, it's funny that my takeaway would be that I feel down on myself, but I did. And I also questioned what my trajectory was set at, because for a long time I would have said doing that, working for that studio would be like my dream. But there are just some realities that come with working for a studio like that, especially one on a different time zone. And when you have a baby, it was just a lot to process once I got out of that gig. And yeah, I don't know. I lost desire to do 3D for a minute there. About a month later, I was starting to be able to channel that weird feeling that I had, mostly just insecurities. I started being able to channel that into my next wave of like, whew, all right, I'm like pushing into something great. And I think it really was a pivotal moment for me to work for them. But then I was just continuing to do the cookware stuff, and then I got a call out of the blue that would end up changing a whole lot for me as well. I got a call out of the blue from a studio called Streamline, and they were asking me if I'd be interested in helping them pitch a very big project to TikTok. I didn't know how many other studios were in the running. I didn't know what our chances were, but somehow, some way, it got accepted and they won the bid. And then they ended up hiring me on as the director of 3D. I got to spend the entire summer building the most insanely wacky, crazy things that only TikTok could pull off with the most talented artists that I just genuinely love spending time with. It was such an incredible experience. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up my journey there, even though right now we're in the middle of some really big and exciting projects as well, but I'm gonna wait and share those with you down the road. Okay, it has been a couple of days since I recorded that last part, and now it's time to awkwardly transition to the GreyscaleGorilla Plus review portion of this video. I've said this before, but I have no idea how to tell how much of my success has come from GSG Plus specifically. But what I do know is that within a month or two of subscribing, my whole career changed, and I had a footing in the 3D space. After 2+ years of being a subscriber, I can hands down tell you the greatest attribute of this subscription. It allows you to be an artist instead of a technician. This space that we're navigating, this 3D world, is incredibly technical, and they have gone in and created a shortcut button for almost everything that allows an artist to get what's in their head on that screen a million times faster, and that is invaluable. Now, I realize I'm being like just overly hype on this whole thing, and I really am. Like it obviously has changed a lot for me. But I want to caveat that with a few wish list things that I would love to see in this subscription. I would love to see the long-term plan for GSG Plus. And the reason I say that is because when I started using GSG Plus, I was one and done Cinema 4D. That was my mainstay. But even in the last 2 years, I've already started using Unreal Engine a whole lot more and Blender a whole lot more. I realized that from the beginning, GSG Plus has been rooted in Maxon's world, right? Like they have been there from the beginning, but I'm sensing some major tides changing, and I'm sensing that us artists are going to have our hands in a lot more programs over the coming years. I mean, just look at the trajectory of NVIDIA's Omniverse. Like, it is a collaboration tool that encourages you to go from this one to this one to this one to this one. And all I'm saying, my biggest ask would be that we could create a hub that is universally available. I want my surface imperfections and my HDRIs to be available to me with the click of a button in Unreal Engine. We already have the perfect example of this, and it's Quixel. Unreal Engine owns them, but you can universally use your assets from within the Quixel bridge in Cinema 4D and in other programs as well. That's the sort of thing that I personally would love to see GSG Plus step into. And this transitions me into the other thing that I would love to see in GSG Plus, and it is more frequent asset updates. I know that it's unfair to look at Quixel because they're owned by Unreal Engine, and to look at Substance Source because they're owned by Adobe. The longer I'm an artist, the more I value differentiation and really wanting every piece of my art to stand out. And I'm finding myself more and more often going to Substance Source or going to Quixel because I know there's gonna be fresh and new stuff there that I can use in my projects more often than there will be fresh and new stuff in GSG Plus. I think they're on like more of a quarterly, maybe an every 2-month thing, but it just doesn't quite compare to the loads and loads of assets that we continue to get from these other subscriptions as well. Phew, this is a very long video. Okay, let's wrap it up. Thinking back 3.5 years ago when I didn't even own Cinema 4D, and looking at that person that just wanted to be in the space so bad but had no business being there, and feeling very, very behind, to being where I am today, incredibly proud of what I've accomplished, and incredibly confident enough to say to you that I'm actually a really good 3D artist now. And I still have so far to go, but I'm actually pretty good. I also hope that this GSG Plus review was helpful for some of you out there. I know I'm still getting a lot of questions from the last 2 reviews that I made like 1.5 years ago. And you guys are asking me a lot about what the subscription's like. So I hope this was helpful for some of you that are just on that fence. Let me know if you have any questions because of this video. I'll do my best to get back with you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for watching. As always, I will be back with another video next Tuesday.